Hey guys, Bama Guitar Dude here. Today, what I thought I would talk to you about is some super soft calling. And this past weekend was really cold and cool here in Alabama in the mornings. And it was around 40 degrees each morning. And yesterday morning, Sunday morning, I went to the spot where I've killed turkeys in this spot several years in a row, and normally I see a lot of hen sign, and it's up on a ridge top, so it's a great listening spot. They'll listen for gobbles, around this area that I hunt, and I thought that I heard a gobble off in the distance, but I wasn't really sure. And I normally do not call to gobblers in a tree, okay? If they're gobbling in a tree, you can normally hear it very clearly, and there'll be echo, and it's a very clear gobble. Versus when they hit the ground, and I'm talking about if you're away from a gobbler, when they hit the ground and they gobble, it's more muted or muffled. You can still clearly hear gobblers gobbling through the woods, but there's a different sound to a gobbler that's gobbling in the tree versus a gobbler that's gobbling on the ground. Okay, and experience is the only teacher that will teach you this. I can't explain it any more clearly than that. But a gobble in a tree typically is very clear, and you'll hear echo. Versus on the ground, it's more, and it's muffled, and there's not a lot of echo. Okay, so that's how I know if I'm a fair distance away from a gobbler. And this gobbler that gobbled on Sunday, I'm estimating I was a good 200 yards away, maybe even further. Okay, but one thing you need to know about gobblers is they can hear a long ways off when they're in that tree. Okay, especially if you're on a ridge top and they're roosted on a ridge top and you call, they can hear you. Okay, but I wasn't quite sure that I heard this bird gobble, so I didn't hear anything for a while. Okay, it got on up in the morning, and normally my birds around here, they'll gobble between 6 and 6:30, and if nothing's ever happened between 6 and 6:30, what I will do is start issuing some calls. Okay, I was taught to call to birds. Okay, I've kind of tempered that a little bit by doing a lot more slipping around and doing calling when I hear gobbling. But sometimes you just got to call, and you'll get more intuitive about this the more that you turkey hunt. But I want to show you the call that I issued this past Sunday that a bird over 200 yards away gobbled to, and it will stun you. This is a walnut pot with a slate surface and a glass soundboard. This is actually a prototype call that I'm not ready to talk to you about yet because I'm still working with the call maker, but I'm very excited about this call. And one of the things that I've learned about slate calls, and I normally do a lot of my soft calling on a slate because I can get really soft calls on a slate. But one thing that I've learned about friction calls, pot calls, is there's normally a sweet spot. Okay? And I mark the sweet spot on the call by putting a piece of duct tape on the call so that when I grip the call, I'm putting my first two fingers between that piece of tape, and now I'm holding this pot call in the spot where I want to issue the call. And that's just something that I developed to know how to grip and grab the call and get prepared to make a call. Okay, but here it is. This is all that I did. Okay, is this right here, if I can make it sound good. And he gobbled. I literally did not do anything more than that right there. Not any louder than that. Of course, it's You know, I'm right up on the camera and I'm right up on the microphone. All right, so it's picking up, and there's echo in this room that I'm in because I've got a vaulted ceiling here in my living room. Okay, but that is a super soft call, and he gobbled to that call. And so sometimes when you're hunting, you're not exactly sure if they're gobbling to your calling or not. Okay, this is the ultimate conundrum of turkey hunting. Did they gobble to you, or did they gobble to something else, another hen, another hunter that you didn't hear? Okay, so what I did is I assumed that he gobbled this call. As stunned as I was, I assumed that he gobbled to this call. So I moved off the ridge just a little bit towards him, and I gave him a little bit more. You know, and where I was is a classic, you know, position where I've always seen a lot of hen sign throughout the years. So I was doing a lot of putts and purrs and little bitty yelps. Okay, so I moved off the ridge a little bit towards him, and I gave him this. And notice that all of my calling is not perfect. Okay? Real hens are not perfect competition callers. If you put a real hen on stage with Billy Yargus will kick her ass. Period. He will win the calling competition. Okay? Because Billy Yargus is awesome. He sounds fantastic. Alright? But real hens in the woods are inconsistent. They skip beats. They do high, low, squeak, squall, sound nasty. They're very, very variable, okay? And they're not pristine. So, you know, don't be afraid to skip some beats and make some false calls when you're turkey hunting. It's okay. It's okay. All right? So I did all that. He never answered. Okay? So time went on, and I'm only talking a few minutes here, 15, 20 minutes or whatever. He never answered to that. So what I ended up doing was I moved back up on top of the ridge top, okay? And it was on past 7 o'clock at this point, and of course, you know, my second setup, I was rustling leaves and stuff like that. What I was trying to do is imitate hens that were feeding in that spot, okay, because the leaves were all torn up. So I was trying to imitate, you know, hey, to him, there's hens here now. Come on to me. And so he didn't respond. Time went on. So I chalked it up, and I was like, you know, he didn't gobble to my calling. So I went back up on the ridge top, and I pulled out my box call, and I hit a chat, yep. And he gobbled right about within 75 yards, probably closer to 50 or 60 yards, okay? He had closed the distance by just this light little calling on this slate. And unfortunately, I made a critical error in my setup because this is the first time that I've ever gotten on this bird. I didn't know what his tendencies were. I was in the area where I saw the hen sign. I set up in that area. He didn't come on into that area. He actually hung up in the road, okay, because there's a road that goes along this area, and he hung up in the road looking through these thick little pines that are nose high, looking into that area to see if he could see the hen that was making the calling, which was me. And when he didn't see anything, he just left the scene. All right. One thing you need to know about, and young birds probably do this too, okay, but not as much. If you've got a bird that's gobbling a lot, I'm not saying that it's not an old bird, okay? But a lot of times, young birds, young turkeys, gobblers like to be heard. And so they'll gobble a lot. Older birds know the drill. They know they only have to gobble a time or two, and their hens are going to come to them. And that's what this bird did to me. So, work on your light calling. Work on your light calling. Just like what I demonstrated. Little bitty putts, little bitty purrs, little bitty yelps. Shorten your yelps up to about 2, 3, 4 yelps at most, especially if you're in a spot where you're seeing a lot of hen sign. Okay, you want to mimic the sound of a feeding hen. That's contented calling. Little putts and purrs, soft little yelps. To me, just a good old classic walnut pot with a slate surface is my go-to call. It's what I've always used with a hickory striker, and you don't have to use a mushroom tip, but in working with this call maker, this mushroom tip striker actually mellowed the call out, and I like a more mellow slate call, when I'm working my slate. I will do loud stuff from time to time, but typically, I'm doing a lot of really, really soft stuff on my slate, or I'll do, strong cuts to locate a gobbler, okay, with my slate call. All the other times I'm using box calls and my mouth call. Okay, so yeah, I know better next time. I know where I should have set up to kill that bird. I should have had him killed, but hopefully he'll play the game with me again before the season ends, and I'll get him killed. But I'm telling you, a really, really killer call to strike a turkey up is that soft calling stuff. Just light little. 1, 2, 3. Put pauses in between it too. That's another thing, is that hens will pause because they're pausing to listen. Okay? You're pausing to listen. Okay? But they want to know that, other birds are responding to their calling as well. And so they'll stop, give it a little bit of time, do it again. A lot of times, like if I've had a bird gobble, and I don't know if he's coming to me or not. Like maybe it's a bird, forget Sunday, but I'm just saying a scenario. You've got a bird and he's gobbled a time or two on the ground. And you're not sure if he's hung up or if he's making his way to you. Okay? What I will do, either with my mouth call, most times with my mouth call, or you could do it with a slate, is just give him that little 1, 2, 3. It's basically like, are you coming? And a lot of times they'll gobble to just that light little, and then you'll know if he's coming to you or not. Okay? All right, so work on your soft calling with a slate, your mouth call. If you can get your box call really quiet like that. Lyle over at Houndstooth showed me a different way to work a box call, and I've been working on his technique, and I'm not going to use it this season because I don't have it perfected. But now I've got something new to work on for next season. All right, to take to the woods and hopefully be more effective with some light calling with a box call. His box call is awesome. And so yeah, light calling. Lighter than you possibly think that a turkey might hear you is money. Can be big time money in the turkey woods. Okay? Take care. Ask any questions that you've got below. I'll be glad to demonstrate some stuff that I use in the woods. And I wish I had a turkey to show you, but I'll get him next time, hopefully. Take care. Bye-bye.